The one thing I absolutely love about a slow sew, when I leave out that door and I leave my sewing machine and my sewing room, I know that I'm going to be able to keep sewing throughout into the evening hours. As if we don't get enough in the sewing room, right? Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you everything on how to make this particular slow sew quilt. First, you need to go down in my information box below and you need to grab the free pattern for this quilt. In this one sheet printable, it's going to tell you how much yardage you need, how much batting, all that fun stuff. And it's going to tell you how many blocks to make this size quilt that I'm making. I hope you do this slow sew with me. Talk about a dopamine hit that you get from this project. It's unmatched, friends. I'm probably going to do a few live videos this winter and just slow sew along with you. So be sure to go down in my information box and find all of the links to find out where you get your templates and where you get the tools that I use in today's tutorial. So right away, I'm going to tell you, you're going to need this set of templates. It's a rectangle template, makes the background fabric, which is the binding as well, or sashing, so to speak. And it comes with this inner rectangle to cut the other pieces that we need. And then you also get a square in this set, an outer and an inner. So this outer will cut the background fabric, and this inner will cut the pretty fabric, and it will also cut the batting. And it's the same thing along with the square. You need to know I talk about a few more tips and tricks for these templates too, so you'll want to make sure to watch the whole tutorial. I'm going to be using needle nose tweezers, precision ones with a little point with the angle. You'll want those. Some clear stick glue, heat erasable pens, straw needles, any size that you like. They just have to be skinny and the thread has to be able to go through it. Self-threading needles, definitely a clip or two. I go into more detail in today's tutorial about this. This is bobbin thread with the magnet on the back so that it adheres to my needle minder. That's important. I'll talk more about that later. Some size 8 ball DMC cotton floss for the embroidery part. This lap board I made and I use it on my lap when I do any hand sewing whatsoever. And I do have a full tutorial on that. So more about this later. This is non-negotiable for me. You need one of these. I have to tell you, the inspiration for today's quilt came from Stitch with Rachel. She's one of my favorite slow sewers on YouTube. I will link her video down below on the brick wall quilt that she started. Now, I don't know if she finished hers yet either. So Rachel, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments if you ended up finishing yours. Enough talking already. Go get your supplies so we can make these cute little quilt as you go brick blocks. In order to make one quilt as you go brick block, you'll need 3 pieces shown right here. You definitely need your background piece, batting, your pretty front piece that's going to be, showing on the outside of your quilt. For this quilt, I had thought about pin basting, thread basting, and glue basting. Those are just 3 ways of quilt as you go quilt basting that you can utilize. I chose to use the glue basting. So here's the thing with glue basting. You can use the sew glue, which comes in a pink stick and it has butterflies on it, I think. I do have that, but I run through that way too quick. And I need a ton of glue sticks to use in this quilt. So I decided on the stick glue, which always works. It has to be washable though. This one right here, Pen and Gear, I found at Walmart in a big, huge pack. I mean, it's like an economy pack. I don't know, I think there was like 30 sticks in it, but it was a really good deal and it was cheaper than the Elmer's. And honestly, it works just as good, if not better, but it is clear. And that's okay. If you want to use purple, you can. It does wash away when you wash the quilt in the end. For today's demonstration though, I am going to use the purple so you can see where my glue is going. The other thing that is so indispensable to me are these needle nose tweezers. These are Tula Pink's needle nose tweezers and they work really well, but they do have the generic version out there and I will link it below. They're the exact same thing, honestly, so yeah. You just need those little points at the end and that little angle. Oh my word, these work so well that It's crazy, and you'll see as we put this block together. You also will need to bring back in your templates. You've used this to cut your background, and you've used this to cut your pretty fabric and your batting. So you're just bringing these back in for this step. First thing you're going to do is grab your background fabric, figure out which is the right side and which is the wrong side. And with this grunge, I can only tell the right side. If you look closely, you can see that little tinge of yellow there in the fibers, or that rustic look, and I can tell that that definitely is the right side of the fabric. So you're going to want right side down, wrong side up. A tip for you, put stickers on your templates because these are so clear. Can I tell you, I have lost these so many times in just getting ready to make this quilt and practicing and doing demos and end up in the most bizarre spots because I do travel from my sewing room back and forth to my living room where I actually do my hand sewing. Before I utilize this template, I'm going to take my purple glue so you can see where I'm going with it. And just in the middle somewhere here, I'm just going to add that, just like that. And then after that, I'm just going to add my template right on top of that and even it up on all the edges. And then I'm going to take my batting and I'm going to lay that down right on top of that glued area. Make sure that your template is even. Then you're going to take your pretty fabric and you're going to add some purple glue or clear glue, whatever you have, right along there. And then you're just going to set that on top of that batting. Being sure to keep the template straight. Give it a little pat down there. Take the template that goes with it, your rectangle, and set it right on top of there. And then give that a press down with your fingers, and that will help put all that glue and fibers together, and it'll sandwich it together. Then you take that off, and then you have a perfectly centered block. And that glue right there, it will disappear when it dries. If you don't like seeing that, you know, you can use the clear glue. Works just as good. This is my technique and method. So if you don't like it, there's other techniques out there. You can try those out and see what works for you. That's what I did. You're going to take your glue stick and you're just going to come along the edge here, close by that pretty fabric. And you're going to make sure that you come all the way to the end. Now you're going to grab those tweezers, those indispensable needle nose tweezers, and you're going to lift the one side up and grab it with your tweezers, and you're going to fold it over. Now the trick here is I leave 1/8 of an inch in here or so. Hopefully you can see that right there. I leave a tiny space there because we have to lift this up over top of the batting and the fabric, and it does get a little thick, so keep that in mind. I tried to go all the way to the edge of this in my prototypes, and no, it was too much, too far. So then I just grab that. The reason for the tweezers, not only for precision, but it keeps the glue off of your fingers, which is very key when you're dealing with stick glue. And as you get going with this, you'll get a lot quicker at it too. Have that folded over. I found that taking the end of the glue cap here and just running it over this instead of a roller works a lot smoother. That is a great tip for anybody that's doing it the glue basting way. You're going to take this piece and lift it up so that it's about 1/8 of an inch or so away from the edge of the batting and the fabric. Again, you can utilize this. Now sometimes, depending on how I cut, I had a gap in here when I folded it, and sometimes I didn't. So you just want to be mindful of that. Now if you don't work quick enough, your glue will dry, so you can, you know, add a little bit more if you see that it's going away. You're just going to lift this up that same way, about 1/8 of an inch. So this is what I was talking about here with the, you know, the ends. You see how they gape out a little bit? It is what it is, you know, because of the cutting, everyone's not going to be perfect. Then you're going to take your glue stick and just add a little bit at the ends here. Now this is what I found helped me to get those corners in check, because they didn't always want to lay right when I was doing it without trimming in these corners. So you're going to take your tweezers and you're just going to grab that end and fold it over just, you know, about 1/8 maybe. Press it down, grab your glue stick cap in, and just turn that over ever so slightly. Just like that. And you can gauge it to see how you work, if you need to do it a little bit more or a little less on that little turnover, or maybe not at all. Try it first and see. But I found that I needed to do it just, you know, a little bit there. Bring in my cap and just get those tampered down. Next, you're going to grab your glue again, and you're going to come across here like this, up a little bit on that end, and down along this long end here, and then do a little bit there. So it's kind of like a U shape there. You want to catch these ends though, that's important. Next, you're going to push this down, the batting, pull this up with the tweezers, and go like that. And just lift that up, hold pressure there, then you're going to grab this. Make sure that that batting is down though, and you can lift your finger up and over. Now, as far as this end goes, this little piece right here, this is the problem, see? Bring this down a little bit, like that maybe, and press it down so it's not hanging out over the edge. And then you're going to want to turn it, make sure the batting is tucked in there good. Press down with your fingers. And again, you see here, you know, that's sticking out. I don't like it, I don't like it. And it would be sticking out even more if I didn't tack that down. So I'm just gonna, you know, bring this in and angle this in so that that is out of the way. So it clears that edge there. And you'll see why here in a second. You know, just make sure that you're not wavy or anything, which sometimes I did end up being a little wavy, but, you know, it's hand sewing and hand gluing. So, you know, I kind of like the organic look of it. Right? Okay, next you're going to do this other side. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to come up a little bit with the glue, go across. Try not to get it on your mat. You might want to lay something down under it. It's going to grab this like I did on the other side, lift up, add pressure. Make sure that this is in there, that's in there. Press that down. Do the same thing here. Now you notice that one cleared it, you see? So we had one that cleared. This one does not, so I'm going to take this and just shift that down a little bit. When you wash this, that will end up laying nice, I promise you. The glue goes away and then it'll just lay nicely nestled in there. Even though, you know, we're kind of manhandling it now to get it there. Now you can take your cap even and put it on your finger and just go along here. And that just helps everything, you know, stay down. Grab your glue, go up a little bit so we catch some of that. Go across here. Looks like a lot of glue, but it's really not. Take your tweezers and lift up in the center. This one, you're going to pretend like this is like a hinge and just lift that up like so. This is actually looking a lot better than the ones I did earlier. But that's okay. See, now there I can see a little bit of lip here. So I'm just going to shove that down a little bit and my fingers are going to get sticky. Yuck. Put that back. So push that in and make that like a hinge. You can take your glue cap and just run it across there. I can see that it comes down this way a little bit, but you know what? I don't really worry about it. I don't. It is what it is. Because we can compensate for anything. When we go to sew it, we can pull a little bit more so it goes down. You can fudge a lot of things when you hand sew. Do the same thing, add a little glue there, and then go across, just like that. So I'm gonna do the same thing as the other side. Take your thumb, press down there, lift this up, press with your finger. Use this as like a hinge, pretend like it's like a hinge, and just lift up. And I do turn it so it's at me when I do the other side. Grab it. Take your cap and run it across. And there you have it. It's all basted. Now this one I can see is peeking out ever so slightly, but we're going to compensate when we get our thread out and when we sew that. That's the glue basting. When you glue baste, you don't have to worry about threads that are around from the thread basting. You don't have to worry about pins sticking out where the thread catches. It makes for such an enjoyable sewing process if you glue baste prior to hand sewing these together. Once you get a pile of rectangles and squares all basted up, then it's time to hand sew the binding down here onto the batting and the pretty fabric. This is what I use in my living room when I sit down to do any of my hand sewing. It's this oval shape, egg-shaped board type thing. I have a full tutorial on how I made this right here. If you want to check that out, I'll link it at the end. But all it is this board, and you can see here I've done some gluing on the back of it. And there is batting in here and an elastic cover over top of it. And you can see this has that thermal type batting that goes on ironing boards, and it's just, you know, like that particle board. That's all it is. But it's perfect for hand sewing because it's small enough and not too big to be able to sit right on my lap. I've taken it on airplanes and it's worked wonderfully. I even use this when I go on car trips. I set it right on my lap and it's so simple to just keep everything on here. And what's nice is it has that batting in there that I can just stick my needles in wherever, you know, I need to put them. I do keep my needle minder here. There's a magnet under here for the needle minder right here. And then that just sticks right there. I can add my needle there if I want. Now for the thread that I use on my actual quilt, I use bobbin thread and it's 100% polyester. When you pull it off and put it in the needle and you start to sew, it actually goes with the nap. So that way you're not going against the grain if you're using bobbin thread. But if you use other thread that comes off a spool and then try to thread it through a needle, you're going to be going up against the grain. I learned that from Tulip Pink in one of her videos, and that's a smart tip there. And also, my bobbins have a magnet on the back of them because when they're in our bobbin case, they need to, you know, stick to something, I guess. I don't know, that's just how they make them. But what works well for us when we're hand sewing is this. It just sticks right to that. Look, I'm far away, and then it just pops right on there. And it's nice because when you need to pull some thread out, you can just pull and it just stays right where it's at. So yeah, I really enjoy the bobbin thread for the hand sewing. When I knew I was taking a plane trip and I needed to take my hand sewing with me, I added this little, almost like a kangaroo pouch type thing on here. You can see here. And all it is just like a thing that I folded over and sewed and then put it on like a sleeve and then just attached it with some thread on the end so that whatever I was going to put in here, whether it be my scissors or whatever, I was going to have, you know, all this stuff tucked in here ready to go when it was time to hand sew in a car or on a plane. So that's what I did there. That is the only difference on this particular piece from the original tutorial. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use just some black polyester thread that I had on hand so that you can see the stitching. We're going to do an applique stitch all the way around. Now you can start in a couple different ways. You can start at the center here on one of the ends, or you can travel up starting down here, up and out the corner, and then start sewing. So there is a couple ways that you can do it. Either way is fine. Sometimes I'll start in a corner and sometimes I'll start on a straight edge. But before we can even start the hand sewing, we need to tie the knot, and we're going to do a quilter's knot. We're going to grab that right there, the end of one of the threads and the needle. We're going to make them kiss, and then we're going to pinch with that hand. We're going to take this thread here and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending if you want a larger knot or not. And then you're going to pinch that you just twisted around, and then pinch this end, and then pull this through all the way to the very end. And what that's going to give you is a knot, just like that. So I'm going to turn this way so that you can see over top of this gray fabric here, because this is kind of busy in blue and this is busy in blue. So now you want to come up along here, along the edge of this binding where you fold it over, and just underneath that binding. So what I'm going to do is start in the center somewhere down here, you know, about an inch or so away from where I want to come up, because remember I need to bury my tail. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to go through. Now I'm going through catching some of the batting only. I'm not coming through the back and I'm not coming through the top just yet. And I'm going to feel my way right here until I can find that tiny space that I want to come up through right there. I want you to look, there's no thread or no needle back here. I went through the center only and then came up here. I'm going to push this through, and I'm coming up through the pretty fabric and through that folded binding, and I'm right here. Push that up through. This is why I love this so much. When my thread is a little longer at the beginning, I can just pop that in here and I can pull this like this. Now you see that knot's right there and it's coming up there. What I'm going to do is right behind this knot, I'm going to push down with my nail to hold pressure there so it doesn't pull some of the fabric. I'm going to grab this thread, wrap it, you know, once or twice around my finger, and I'm going to give it a tug just like that and pull it through the rest of the way. And you see there, that leaves a little hole, looks like, but the hole will go away. When you wash it, it'll go away. It's just spreading the threads. It's not breaking them. This is not cutting these threads at all. And you're going to pull this until it comes up, you know, so the knot's right in this area right here. Now I'm going to work from right to left. That's how I work. So I don't know what hand you are. I'm right-handed, so that's how I do it. I don't know if that's right, wrong, or indifferent. I don't know. With an applique stitch, you came up here, you're going to go underneath that lip just barely, a little bit, right underneath where you came up. And you're going to go about 1/8 of an inch in this way. Now you're only catching where the batting is. You're not going all the way to the back. And once you think you're about 1/8 of an inch or so, which is about right there, mind you, I'm not coming through the back at all. Then I'm going to push that needle up and grab it and pull it through. And you can see there what that did was make a little line right there, and I'm a little off, but that's okay. I don't really pay too much attention to it being slanted too much, but a real applique stitch is nice little stitches all the way across, but you know, I'm still trying to perfect it, so. So you're going to come in here again, right where that went in, you're going to go right underneath that, just barely underneath that folded part. Only going through the center, you're not hitting the back or anything. And I'm going to come up here, about 1/8 of an inch. Give it a tiny tug. I'm going to come right underneath that lip, right there, where it's coming out at, but I'm under, and I'm going to veer it left about 1/8 of an inch, catching the batting and the top fabric and coming out again at the top. Nothing on the back. You can see mine is very inconsistent. I'm a total beginner when it comes to applique stitching and hand sewing in general. So that looks pretty good to me, even though it's like way off, but when you use matching thread, you don't even see it. So keep that in mind. Just try to keep them as consistent as you possibly can. So when I come up to the corner here, I'm going to come just under that last thread that I pulled up there, and I'm going to come to the corner down here, and I'm going to catch all the layers of the binding, the batting, and the pretty fabric. And then I'm going to come up through. Now, mind you, this is how I do it. You can do it totally different. However it is to get this all sewn up, you do you. So now once I came up through there, I'm then going to come this way underneath that area where I just was, and I'm only right in that corner. I'm just grabbing the batting and the pretty fabric, and I'm going up through with this needle, and I'm trying to find where that corner is to come out at. And that looks good. And once I have that, I then push it through like that. And that gives that a little tuck there to help with that area so it stays down, I think. I don't know. Because what I'm going to do is come out here, and I'm under here and you can't see it, you know, because it's inside. I come out here, I'm going to go here and then down here. And then when I get back here again, I'm going to continue with the applique stitch. You can flip it however which way you came out under. What you're going to do here is just a little whip stitch, catching tiny pieces of this corner. You can see there I barely grabbed anything. Now mind you, you're going to use thread that matches. You're not going to use black like what I'm using here to show you. The big perk about having this board with the batting and everything on your lap, you don't need a thimble. And this is what I mean. When I'm going through some thick layers and I get to a certain point where I don't think I can push anymore, I literally use this as leverage. See? And it just pushes it straight through. That way it just keeps me from having to have any kind of extra thing on my hand. So I'm going to put it through, come up. Now this area right here, you want to make sure, oh, I did come through there, didn't I? Jeez, look at, that's so bad. I did come through. Or with thread that matches, you're not going to see that. And I'm not going to go back through and get that. But you got to make sure that you don't catch the back, so don't be like me. On this part right here, when you come to the corner, you're going to want to make sure that you grab that corner piece because you want that to be tucked in nice. And you're going to whip stitch that. Just like that. Now when we connect the next block to this, you know, you're really not going to see that, honestly. Just come along here and you can grab some of the top of this. You're not going all the way through. You're just trying to grab a few threads of that top binding. This is where that one was sticking out too. Shove that in with your needle. Get that out of the way. We don't want to see that. Although on my other ones, you can totally see it. So, because I'm such a beginner. And then, so this, I'm just going to grab just a little bit. But I'm going to grab this part all together there to make sure that those are nice and tucked in there. Grab tiny bites. And again, I'm going to use this as leverage. See? It works perfectly. I love it. I cannot work without this board now. I'm so used to it. So you'll just make a bunch of little stitches right there. And don't take too much. Don't take too big of a bite. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that for the video. Oh well. This shows you right here, friends, how imperfect I really am, right? And I have to confess, on some of my other blocks that I did, I left any little bit because you really can't see it. Once I do the embroidering on it, you can't see it. Your eyes are not drawn to it at all. So when you get to this corner right here and this point, now we need to continue the applique stitch. I may need to do one more stitch here, like right there, just to get that a little bit closer to the end. There we go. So when you get to that last stitch over here, and you can see that this is, you know, the corner area, you're going to push in toward that corner area without going toward the back. And you want to stay as close as you can up this way, so you're kind of underneath this binding right here, so we can continue the applique stitch. So you're going to come up like right there, and then now you can continue on like you were. Come under where that stitch is and up about 1/8 an inch or so. And you can make these as long, you know, or as big as you want. But again, you're not going to see them really because it's blended, right? You can really see these, but I'm going to try not to hit the back. And so you'll just keep going and keep going. That is what that looks like from start to a corner, and then you come back down. Now I'm going to show you how to end it. So say I was at the end and I was done with this, you know, it's all done and sewn up. I'm going to end my stitch up here, and then I'm going to come in this area down here where you can't see me going in, and I'm going to take a tiny bite right there. So hopefully you can see that right there. Just a tiny bite. And then I'm going to come through, and it's underneath that lip, so you can't see it. And then I'm going to come through once. Whoop. Pretend like that was, pull that back out. And then you're going to come back through again through that loop. And then you're going to pull it tight. And see, you can't see where you went under there to put that little tiny double loop knot. And then you're going to come back in here with your needle, like behind that knot or somewhere close to where that knot is, but not in the hole. And you're going to come through the batting area, not the back and not, you know, the top until you end it. And then I'm going to come through. See, it's not in the back. And then I'm going to push this about 1 inch or so away. It's now going to be exposed, the needle. And then I'm going to pull it through, pull my needle off, stick it in your little board, and you can see that sticking out there, right? Then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to pull up a little bit, some slack there, cut it, smooth that out, and you cannot see where I had cut that off, and it's knotted here real good, and it's not going to go anywhere. So that is how you applique stitch on these little cutie pie brick blocks. Now when it comes to embroidery thread, I choose the ball type of the DMC. It's the size 8, and you can see the number there. You can find all of my affiliate links to these items down in the information box. Anytime you click one of the links, it only helps me bring you more of what you love. And it doesn't cost anything extra for you to just use my link too. So I wanted to show you just some of the designs that I used to embroider each one of my blocks before I connected them together. And you'll have more of an easy time to embroider if you do it now prior to, you know, sewing them all together and then thinking you're going to embroider them. So for this one, I just did a bunch of little X's everywhere. They're not a whole bunch, just a few, and you can see what that gives you on the back because you're only going through and then up once, showing the back line. So, and on this one here, I did a bunch of little X's everywhere, which gave me a bunch of little, you know, little dots on the back. I love this one. I took the cap of my glue stick. This cap has really come in handy, this quilt, I'll tell you that. And I put it down and I traced the circle, and I embroidered these darling little circles onto these little blocks. So cute. This is my favorite so far with the little circles. And then on the back, you can see the little circles and then the little specks from where I put the little X's. And you can see here, there was a spot where I came up through the back on that one. It was one of my first ones. So yeah, it happens. What are you going to do? I'll just keep going. That's what I do. On this one, I used a different color embroidery floss and stitched just along the inside edge there. And you can see the color. It's kind of a gold color. I don't really like the colored thread, but I just left all the ones that I did in the beginning. So I'm going to have some color in there, but you know, it'll be eclectic, right? So there's that. And this one, I did an inside rectangle. I followed more inner than outer like this one. And then I did the inner there too, and you can see there on the back. There's lots you can do to put a really cute design on your little tiny rectangle bricks, right? Now you can also do X designs. What I mean by X design is you can quilt this way, this way, this way, and you can also box it in and put that X in there as well. And how I did that was just lay down these acrylic rulers from corner to corner and just draw a line. And just draw a line with my heat erasable pen. And then I just followed that line to make my quilting stitches. Let's put some round ones in this one. So I just scattered them wherever too. It didn't really matter. I mean, I just did whatever, right? So you just make the circle, which I don't know if I'm able to see that red too well. I don't know if you can, but it will go away with heat. So there's a round mark there. Maybe let me see, I'll put this in half like this, make a crease mark, and then go from this corner to this corner in an X design, just to, you know, make things different. I love doing different things on my stuff, so yeah. Right there. So I've got a big X here, and I've got a circle here, and maybe I'll put some little tiny X's around there, and we'll see what that looks like. It's so much fun to make these little blocks. They're so cute. So the needle I use for all of the embroidery floss are these easy thread needles, and this one is, I think, by Clover, and I will link it below. This makes life so much easier. So you'll just take the end there and just pop it over right there, and it pops right in. And look at that. I mean, life doesn't get any better, friends, really. So you just, you know, cut off what you think you'll need there. That might be too much. And then you'll do a quilter's knot too, and you'll make them kiss. Now for this, how many circles you do, I only do one, because this is a little thicker, a lot thicker than our thread, and so it has a tougher time popping through and splitting those threads, but it still gives you that nice little knot at the end. So I would just go 1 or 1.5, you know, twists. Now, even though I just got rid of my board, I have this, you know, that I can push my needle through. I always have my board 100% of the time. I'm gonna start here on the circle, and what I'm gonna do is just come away from that circle area somewhere, and then I'm gonna go through the batting, maybe catch a little nip of that batting, and then come up right where that circle is that the mark I just made right there, and I'm gonna come through, and I'm gonna hold that down so that goes through, and it popped right through. Then I'm just going to simply do a kind of bick stitch quilting move here. I'm going to come about 1/8 of an inch away from there. So I'm going to go straight down, and I'm going through all layers, see? And then I want to use my finger in the back to kind of guide it a little bit because it's such a tiny piece. And I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch, see, like that. You can see the needle in the back. Push it through, use your leverage if you have to. And then pull that through, like so. And it leaves a little mark back there, and it'll leave an indentation of the circle on the back. Go down. You want to go over about 1/8 of an inch, and then go down, feel in the back there, and then just pull through. I don't worry too much about how much is eaten up in the back. I just worry that the front is semi-even, you know, as far as the stitches go. And when you're going in a circle, I tend to go one stitch at a time because I don't want to mess it up. These little circles are so stinking cute. So I have a little bit of space between where I came out and my last stitch. So I'm gonna split the difference and I'm gonna go in here and I'm only going to go through the batting area. I'm not going to the back. And then when I think I wanna put a star somewhere, I stop and pop up through the top. That way you won't see where I traveled on the back. See, I ended up over here and you can't see where I ended up, you know, stopping. And then to make that star, I'm going to go down all through the layers and pop back up, down and pop back up off to the side there and come up, pull through. And you see, if I go in this area right here, it's going to make an X, but it leaves only just one little slash on the back. So I'm going to pull that thread like that to see where that makes a nice little X. It's right there. So I'm not going to go through all the layers right here. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to travel within that batting area to put my next X. And I'm going to pop up wherever I want it, which is about right there. So I'm traveling. I'm using that batting to travel. And you can see there, you don't see any other marks. And then I'm going to make another X here. So I'm going to go just down from that. I'm going to go through all the layers there, come up toward the side, off to the side there to make that X shape. And then I'm going to come up through. And you can see there, wherever I go right there, that'll make the X. But you only see 2 marks there. I'm going to figure out where I'm going to go in at, which is about right there, and I'm going to travel this way. I'm only going through the batting. I think I'm going to do another X right here. I'm going to travel. I think I'm going to travel right. See how this X is right here? I'm going to travel right in here somewhere to make a tiny X. Make sure you don't pull too hard that you warp anything too. You want it to lay nice and flat still. Go in, and then you're going to travel through the batting again, and you're going to go to one of the ends right there. And you're going to come out. See the needle coming out? But you see there, there's no needle showing it all in the back. You're going to come out, and it makes the X there. And now I'm going to follow that X down that way. And I'm going to use that big stitch mentality, I guess. I don't know, because I don't really know how to embroidery stitch, really. I just know how to big stitch quilt. So I don't know, they're probably like the same, just smaller stitches. I don't know. So I'm going to go down in. And this one you can chain stitch, so to speak. You can keep going. Like I can load up a bunch of stitches on there, and if my board was here, I'd push that down, grab it, and pull through. And you can see there I've made a bunch of stitches just like that. And on a straight line, I don't worry too much, but on those circles, I don't do that because I don't want to mess those up. So I'm just going to load up a bunch. Maybe that was too much. Okay. Now when you get to the end here, and you need to get over here now, right, to this X to finish that X off, go in right where that would end. But remember, you're going to travel there within the inner batting. You're not coming out to the end. So you're just pushing the needle where it needs to go till it gets to that corner, and then pull it through. So now I'm at the top of this X over here, this big X, and I'm going to just do the same thing. And you want to pull it, you know, just so that there's no slack in it, but don't pull it so much that you suck it in, you know, and make it too taut in there. And just follow that mark that you made with the X there. Oh boy. Okay, now when you go to end on the embroidery stitch, I typically take out the needle. I have that much more to go. So I want that next stitch to go right in here. So what I'm going to do is take this excess thread tail here and make like a loop. So I have like a little loop there. Then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pull this slowly so that I can get that knot down low enough close to where that stitch would go in. So it's about right there, and there's my knot. So that looks good to me. So I'm going to pull out my needle, make sure that that's, you know, nice and tight. And then this is the beauty of these needles right here. You just pop this back on and continue. I mean, I cannot live without these, friends. I have to use these for this anyways. So now I have that knot right here. Now I'm going to go in where this stitch is going to end, but I'm not going to go through to the back. I'm going to stay within that batting area, and then I'm going to come about, you know, however long you want to go. That's about an inch or so. You can even go farther if you want. Push it up through, and you're going to pull it. You can take that needle off now if you want. Now this right here, the knot is laying right on top of the fabric. You can't really see it though, can you? So what I'm going to do is hold this fabric back here, and I'm going to take this thread, I'm going to pull it until it pops through. You hear that? It popped right through. And then I can re-straighten my block back up. So now that is knotted in there, and it's on the inside, and it has a long enough tail that it's not going to wiggle its way out, right? Now I'm just going to give this a little tug, and I'm going to nip this right here. And then the tail just hides down in that hole. And that's the back. You have a big X. There's our circle. Oh, it's XO. I just realized that for kisses and hugs. I'm going to heat this up so my marks go away so you can see the stitching better. So hopefully you can see that. How cute is that with that circle? I just love the circles. And then there's the back. So just think outside the box and try to come up with some new stitch ideas. If you come up with some new stitch ideas, send them to my email. I would love to see them. thesewingchannel33@gmail.com. So let's see how we're going to put these together. Here is a square set up with the rectangle in a row already. In the design that makes it look like it's off-center all the way down the bricks, you have to put a square, then a rectangle, you know, and the rectangle's all the way down until you get to the end, then you put another square, and then you would start the next row with a rectangle. It would be like that off-center all the way down, and it would look like, you know, a bunch of bricks, right? So these two are together already, so we're going to add on this right here, and we're just going to flip them like so. You just want to line them up, you know, so the corners match. Now, if by chance you have one that's wider than the other, because that does happen sometimes, just in the way that you cut or sewed them, it's just the way it is, you can push the ease toward the one that say this one is too much. Say, you know, that's an exaggeration. Say this is the short one and this is the long one here. This is the long one. you would pretend like these are the same, you know, right there. You would want to slowly push this one in and sew that, and sew that, so that eventually, once you get it all together, it's going to look even. I hope that makes sense. But this one, these are, you know, pretty much together, which is good. So I just take a clip and I just clip them one time. That just helps hold them together. Now I'm just going to take the same needle that I used when I appliqued stitch, and I'm going to pull some thread off of my magnetic bobbin here. And these eyes on these straw needles are really easy to thread. I'm just going to pull off, you know, about half an arm's length from my hand until my elbow. And I'm going to do that quilter's knot. Make them kiss, pinch here, 1, 2, 3, 4, pinch, pull through, and it makes the knot. To connect these together, I'm going to start at the corner first. So I'm going to come from the back about an inch away from that corner, and I'm only hitting the batting and in the center there. I'm not coming through to the front area. I'm just going to come out, travel through the batting, and come out the corner there. Now you're going to see the knot is right here. You want to pull that through, so I'm going to wrap that around my finger, and I'm going to hold that right there, and it pops right through. See how far it'll pull through. It might get caught up in the corner area or the batting, and that's okay too. Wherever it gets caught, make it stop, and then, you know, continue sewing from there. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this corner. It might be a little tougher to get the thread through these, and you're going to want to, you know, go through those corners a couple times. And you see I'm utilizing my board. I love my board. It has saved my fingers big time. Go through again, you know, I go through several times because I want the corners to be really secure. Just at the very tips of the corners. And then I'm going to flip it like so. And I'm going to move the clip over here. Even though those are together, I'm just going to hold it in there for a minute. Now there's a few different ways you can do this, but I tried it the one way of the video that I saw that I talked about earlier, Rachel's video, and I tried her way. Even though her way looks neater and it looks much better in the end, I don't think I'm there yet. I'm not there at that advanced move yet. So I'm going to just grab tiny bits on both sides so that I'm grabbing just the insides, what's going to be, you know, facing each other. That's what I'm trying to do. If I take too much, then I'm going to be able to see my stitches, and I don't want that. But you know what? I can totally see my stitches throughout this whole quilt so far, so it is what it is. So, and this you do want to pull tight, but don't snap your threads tight. Just, you know, give it a little tug. Cotton thread will break if you use it. Polyester thread, you know, it can take a little bit more substantial pull. And I'm just nipping. Now when I first tried my first few blocks for the actual quilt, I took too much, but that's okay. I'm leaving it because I'm not going to redo it. I like to see the advancement, you know, as I go. Now I can get rid of this clip because I don't need that clip anymore. And you can hold this, whatever feels more comfortable to you. Usually this is on my lap. So you're just coming just a little bit away from each other. I think, what they say, it's like 16 stitches per inch or something. That is a good stitch for hand sewing. Make sure if it gets caught around that corner that you lift it up and over. Just grabbing the insides of both of those fabrics. Just tiny nips. Let's take a look. So when I open that up, that looks pretty good, honestly. We're up to the, where are we up to? We're up to there. That looks pretty good, honestly. And then when I flip it over, once we get it together. There'll be just those tiny stitches, and once you wash it, you're going to be fine, right? This is a little bit whiter of thread than what I wanted, but it's what I had in the bobbin, so that's what I'm using. I probably would have used like an off-white with this, but it's more white than anything. I can't even tell. It blends so well, I can't even tell the stitches. So now when you get to the end here, you're going to take, you know, a few stitches in that corner. Remember, we want that corner to be really solid because that is where we're going to be connecting some other blocks. So after I take a few stitches, I then go in and take a small bite between the both of them. I come out with that loop right there, and I'm going to go in once, come up, and I'm going to go in again through that loop. So I'm making a double knot here, and you can see there it's going to tighten up and make a knot. To end this, I'm going to come in close to where I came out at without popping my needle up. I'm going right through the batting, and put your finger down there and you can tell. And I go about, I don't know, an inch, inch and a half or so away from that corner, and then I pop up in the back area, push it through like that. This way it not only keeps my thread down in there, but it leaves me a long tail with that double knot right there. So I just feel like that is more helpful than trying to leave a knot there and snip it, or leave a knot toward the end awkwardly, because I have a hard time making those knots and putting them through the fabric. So I feel like that's a happy medium. I don't know. So here's what 3 look like together. And there's the back. This one has some turquoise embroidery floss that I had. But like I said, I don't think I'm really going to utilize it, so there'll be patches of it. So here you can see the stitches. They're kind of invisible maybe. I don't know. Not really. They're better on the front area because of the way we folded it. So yeah. So that's what it looks like when you connect them together. So the way I think I'm going to do it is once I get like a row done, then I'm going to fold it over onto the next row and then stitch it just like I did that. So how will you know when I'm doing a live sew along? Well, let me show you here in this video pop-up. You're going to go to my channel where you see my little circle there with my name. It says the sewing channel, and it usually tells you how many subscribers you have and whatnot. That is how you know you're on the home page. And then there'll be little tabs or widgets, so to speak, where it'll say videos, playlists, community page, and you'll see a word live there. Now, if you click that word live, that is going to take you to all of my past lives. That's kind of weird to say, but all of my past live videos that I did, you will see there if I have scheduled any new live videos. So that's how you'll know that there is a live Quilt As You Go slow sew brick wall quilt coming up. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.